Mr. Orlins, President Hu Jintao is coming to the U.S. Given the turbulent relationship, I would say, in the past year, what would be your expectation for Hu's visit? How significant do you think it is going to be?
I think it's very significant. I think whenever the President of China and the President of the United States have state visits to each country, to each other's country, it's a very significant event. I mean, when I started in this business in the State Department more than 30 years ago, it would be on the front page of every U.S. newspaper. It would be the first story in every television news show. So it would be extremely important. These still are important, but fortunately, they're occurring. The bilateral meetings are occurring more frequently. This will be almost exactly 24 months that President Obama has been in office, and it will be the 8th time that they're meeting. So that's once every 3 months. Even though they meet that frequently, they often meet on the sidelines of the G20 or at the Global Warming Conference, and it's just a brief meetings. These will be 2 days of meetings between the President and the two Presidents. It will be meetings with the U.S. Congress. It will be meetings with other members of the United States Cabinet. It will be meetings with the U.S. business community, the think tanks. You know, we will be co-hosting a lunch for President Hu on the lunchtime on the 20th of January, and that will be important. We'll be able to directly address around 600 members of the U.S. business and think tank community. So it's a very important time for direct communications. Rather than telephone calls and meetings that are just 45 minutes on the sideline of another conference, this is really a very important time to discuss issues in detail. So I think it's very significant. Obviously, it's exactly 2 years that President Obama has been in office. It's 2 years until the next election, so that gives President Obama the ability to do a lot of things that when it gets very close to the election will be more difficult to do over this year. There certainly have been some areas where the United States and China do not agree. I would say most of them are tactical, they're not strategic. That there are very few strategic differences, and that what's happening is that our common interests, terrorism, global warming, economic development, no more financial crisis, freedom of navigation, all of these things confront China and the United States jointly, not individually. And those common interests far outweigh the conflicting interests. And in my view, most of the conflicting interests are tactical, not strategic. So yes, there has been some turbulence in the relationship, but the relationship overall is getting wider and deeper.
But do you think the sort of the frictions, whether in trade or sort of a military build-up, or whether situation in South China Sea, is going to cause more damage to the relationship in the new year, the years to ahead, or you think it's going to calm down?
It's such a deep and complex relationship. There will always be some friction. We have friction with Canada, with Mexico, with the UK. We have trade disputes with the EU. We have trade disputes with Japan. We have trade disputes with our allies. Of course, we're going to have trade disputes with China. U.S.-China trade is now almost $400 billion. You cannot do $400 billion of trade without having disputes. The amount of investment that America has in China is enormous, tens of billions of dollars. Now we're seeing Chinese investment into the United States. Of course we're going to have disputes. That's okay. It's okay to have disputes. It should be, in my view, it should be disputes among friends. I have disputes within my family. We solve those disputes. The United States and China will have disputes, but they need to solve those disputes in a spirit of friendship, in a spirit of trust. And I think that by and large that happened. You know, people talk about the problems in the South China Sea. There has been no real friction in the South China Sea. It's all been discussions. I haven't seen ships being blocked. I haven't seen circumstances where the two navies are confronting each other. Both countries need the South China Sea to be open to shipping. China requires those ships for its trade, for its energy, and the United States requires it to be open for its interests also. So the interests are not really conflicting. I think it was Deng Xiaoping who said, put these historical disputes aside and work towards common development. I think that's what China is doing, will do, and it's what America should support. So I don't see that as a dispute that is going to be significant in the future. As for arms buildups, you know, China needs to have a more transparent process in its military budgeting. That they need to understand, you know, the United States needs to understand why China is doing certain things. And I think we're seeing slow progress in that area. Secretary Gates is in Beijing right now. So that is a big step towards kind of building trust between the militaries. We need to do much more in that area, but we do it in the context of common interest, not of conflicting interests.
Can you tell us, like, you know, if you read all the papers every day on a daily basis, I mean, whether Chinese media or the U.S. media is all talking about highlighting the tension, you know, sort of between China and the U.S. So in that circumstance, how optimistic or pessimistic you are about the relationship in the new year and the years to come?
I think the U.S. media far overstates the tension, and I think to some degree they will often not properly characterize the Chinese position. So I often take issue with certain coverage. I believe that there is some tension in the relationship, but in the context of the overall relationship, it is actually not major. That the overall relationship is one of cooperation. And again, as I said before, of course, there are going to be differences. We differ on what we should be doing on North Korea, but that's a tactical difference. It's how to get North Korea to behave like a responsible international player. Not the way it has. The Chinese government and the U.S. government both want a nuclear-free peninsula. The question is, how do we arrive at that? And where the United States and China differ is tactically how we should approach North Korea. So China has a closer relationship with North Korea and wants to approach it a certain way. We have a difficult relationship, a very distant relationship with North Korea, and we want to approach it in another way. So what needs to happen is we need to talk to each other frequently, openly, transparently, so that we know what the other is doing. But of course we're going to differ on tactics. That's to be expected.
Yeah, the last question. You know, people talk a lot about, you know, the visit is an opportunity for the two leaders or the two countries to reset, you know, the relationship. Do you think that is sort of the proper word to describe?
That would suggest, I would differ with reset, because I think that would suggest that the relationship is really off kilter. And in my view, the relationship is fundamentally sound. Having said that, it is terrific that the President of China is going to come to Washington, D.C. and be welcomed as a state visitor. That the symbolism of that is, in my view, the most important thing.